Now, he helped unravel one of the greatest enigmas in physics, earning his place alongside names like Isaac Newton and Albert Einstein. The father of the so-called God particle, the Nobel Prize-winning physicist Peter Higgs, has died aged 94. The University of Edinburgh says he passed away peacefully in his home. Higgs was famous for his groundbreaking theory from the 1960s, which proposed a new particle known as the Higgs boson. He argued that the boson helped bind the universe together by giving particles their mass. Decades later, his theory was proven by physicists working at the Large Hadron Collider at Cern in Switzerland. He was honored with the Nobel Prize for Physics in 2013.
This is the Rebel Call Channel. Welcome to today's show. How's this for a coincidence? You guys believe in coincidences? Peter Higgs, the man known for predicting the God particle, the same particle that CERN claims to have found in 2012. Again, no irony here, where we have scientists who are talking about all these experiments that they're doing having to do with the Big Bang Theory, naming a particle after God, the same God that they don't believe actually exists. But Peter Higgs actually passed away at 94 during the eclipse on April the 8th in his home in Scotland. So just to recap, we know that CERN was turned on. We know that NASA was sending up Egyptian deity-named rockets into space. All these scientists trying to do something that they can't really explain to you what they're trying to do because you're not smart enough to understand, but just know it's for the betterment of humanity because, again, we need to find out what's on the other side. We need to open up black holes because this is all normal. And we know that in the occult, ritual sacrifice is used to open and bring about demonic entities. So who better than the 94-year-old Peter Higgs? Now, I know some people out there will say, well, Peter Higgs was 94. He was at the ripe old age of 94. He had many years to go. Oh, of course, I'm kidding. But he was 94, so people die. And I totally understand that because some people do actually die. And then other people actually, in the occult, they do rituals to pass their spirits on to different vessels. They take about different vessels for their souls to enter inside of. And all the things that they're trying to do at CERN coincidentally lined up with an eclipse, whether it was a man-made eclipse or a real actual eclipse. We know that they were trying to harness something during the eclipse, which is why they told us that all this other crap was going on at the same time, including, by the way, the invocation of Horus ritual that Aleister Crowley performed, and in his writings of the Book of the Law, all coinciding at the same period with the date of April the 8th. So Peter Higgs, tragically, according to who you ask, passed away while all of this was going on. And of course, if you think that that's a weird coincidence, you're probably a tinfoil hat-wearing conspiracy theorist, right? So when they talk about the God particle, again, like I just mentioned, it's pretty incredible that people actually take these people at their word for what they're trying to do. And on top of that, these are the same people who have brainwashed millions of people into believing that the Big Bang Theory is a real theory. And of course, at the same time, they mock these people right to their faces by saying that they've been searching for a God particle and then telling us in 2012 that they've in fact found the God particle. But what this is really about is Satan attempting the power of creation, recreating what God created. Manipulation of men's genetic code and structure, which we know is currently going on. They flat out tell us almost every single day about gene editing, yet nobody seems to understand what they're talking about when they say changing you. And at the same time, they roll their eyes at people like us when we talk about the amount of energy that the Hadron Collider is creating, which is 1.3 terawatt hours of electricity annually, which they claim is enough power to fuel 300,000 homes for a year. So there's a lot of energy. But they're not trying to fuel anyone's home for a year with this energy that they claim that they're harnessing. Wouldn't we all look at this and say, well, we don't know who's funding CERN. We don't really know the purpose of CERN. But wait a minute. They're telling us that there's no energy and the grid's going to go down, all this stuff. But CERN has the ability to harness enough fuel to power the entire United Kingdom for a year. Well, of course, but they're not trying to do that. They're not trying to better humanity. They're trying to bring over what's on the other side. Let me play a clip for you of everybody's favorite actor, Bill Nye, who again is an actor playing the role of a scientist, who always is on television telling you what you should and shouldn't believe. And of course, anyone who disagrees is a conspiracy nut because they're on TV. So we have to give them they have all the credentials because they're on a television box. So we got to believe everything that they say as fact. Well, listen to Bill Nye talk about the God particle, and he even stumbles to figure out what the purpose of it is because they have to be careful not to actually slip up and tell you that they're trying to summon demons from the other side and open portals.
If this exists, as we seem to be getting closer to understanding it does, what would that do? What would that mean?
It may mean we'd be able to unlock limitless energy. Let me just put it that way. It may be that we would understand the next secret of the universe, that we would know, we'd be another step closer to knowing where we came from. We'd be another step closer to understanding the universe itself, which is ultimately quite a mystery to us.
What is this Higgs boson God particle?
At the very, very beginning of the universe. See, people here, as a matter of fact, I'm in Los Angeles. People at Mount Wilson, not far from here, notably Edwin Hubble, noticed that all the stars, everything's moving apart. So he reasoned that everything was all together at one time, and this would be the Big Bang. Well, at that time, it is speculated by mathematical, elegant physical reasoning that everything was kind of one thing. But then after the Big Bang, things started to separate. Things started to take on different properties. So that pure energy, like light, has no mass. The particles of light have no mass. The particles that make up you and me, like you've probably heard of protons and neutrons and electrons, they have mass. And do you know why?
No.
No one really is sure why. But it could very well be that there's an exchange of particles. Nowadays, we view these things as particles. We do experiments to detect particles, and you detect particles. Protons are made of quarks, which are held together with gluons. No kidding. And so it could be, it's very reasonable that these other particles all exist in this ether that would be called, named after Peter Higgs.
Right.
That is then infused with little particles that give them mass, that help them have mass.
And
this would be the Higgs boson.
So there's Bill Nye telling you about the God particle, and of course Cern even tweeted out. Cern is very heartbroken, I'm sure, tweeting out. It only took him 2 days after it actually happened, to tweet out that they were sad to learn of the passing of Peter Higgs, an iconic figure in modern science. Higgs was the one who came up with the theory of the God particle in 1964. Its discovery at Cern in 2012 was the crowning achievement of the standard modern model, of particle physics. And again, when you hear the terms physics, you hear these terms rocket science, it's an automatic trigger word to make the common person out there feel like they're not smart enough to understand what these people are doing, so they should give them carte blanche to do as they please out in the universe, whether it's turning on all these things like HARP, or turning on these things like the Hadron Collider, all this stuff. They go, I don't know, that's above my, I don't really understand what they're doing there, but I didn't go to an Ivy League school, so they're smarter than me. I shouldn't question the fact if we gave this type of technology to the Jeffrey Dahmers of the world, if that would be a good idea or not. Well, that's exactly what this is, and you should be able to see this when you look at people like Bill Nye, when you look at people like Bill Gates, when you look at people like Jeff Bezos, when you look at people like Elon Musk. You have zero discernment if you look at these people and you don't think that something is off with them. Really, really off. So for those of us who believe that it could have been a sacrifice, well, why wouldn't it be? If they're trying to ultimately summon things over during this eclipse, whether again it's man-made or not, well, who better than to offer himself than Peter Higgs, because it always takes a sacrifice. Remember, when they perform ritual sacrifices, people just go, oh, it was a sacrifice. You have to understand the purpose of the sacrifice and how blood actually works in these rituals that they bring entities over with. They pretty much feed these demons the blood in a sense. They, in fact, take the blood into their own bodies, these humans who perform the rituals, and then summon entities over, luring them with the sacrifices that they make. That's why they use protective circles, the magic circles, all these other things that they use in these invocations that they perform. But blood is the key element in all of it. And specifically, of course, we know how important the blood of the youth is in these rituals, but why not the blood of somebody who's involved in some type of an experiment that nobody could grasp, the Higgs boson experiment, the God particle experiment. And of course, remember the clip I always play during these time periods where we think there could be a sacrifice, so people out there understand how it works. Ultimately, all of these people give a sacrifice, whether it's one of their own or themselves.
Of course you're uncertain, Cal. Naturally, so was I, till I met him. And now imagine, if you can, a life without uncertainty, freedom from doubt, the ability to choose, single-mindedness.
One life from each of us, Cal, is all he asks. And he rewards our devotion 1,000-fold.
Personal desires, oh yes, of course, anything. That's part of it.
It's only the beginning.
There was a time, Cal, when man was at one with the gods, before the fall. Now we're at one again. And their benediction is power. It's a power you can't imagine. Power to create a world of our choosing. Power to destroy those who oppose us.
We want you to join us. Create this ground with this Father's humble offering. We seek the strength and wisdom of our benefactors.
We call upon the ancient gods to renew our strength and guide your hand to strike down the enemies of our faith and of this great nation.
We welcome our brother Cal, reborn into your grace.
Ayawaladama,
the power which is our birthright,
Herabanya,
the glory which is our destiny,
Anjukukajin Tasmala,
our enemies consumed by winds of fire,
Ong Pangay Ulula Sonina,
our strength reborn in sacrifice.
Identi Sonina, Monsaya Denti Sonina.
And again, a lot of these people choose to exit the world. People look at this and they go, they went to Peter Higgs's home and they grabbed him and they threw him in a truck and they brought him against his will to a factory somewhere. And they did this ritual during the eclipse because of his significance with the God particle, which now they're completing Peter Higgs likely offered himself. That's what these Satanists do and believe. They offer themselves. That's why you've always heard about this reincarnation and rebirth. This is part of their belief system, that they take on different vessels, that their souls can be brought about into new human vessels. And in some cases, of course, a lot of artificial intelligence and robots, etc., are going to be the things that carry and harness their spirits inside. And we've all heard the stuff about uploads and uploading your consciousness. So all of this stuff ties together. But Peter Higgs dying, the guy, all we've heard about is the God particle for the last, I don't know, most of our lives with Cern, for those of you that followed Cern for a long period of time, and people who started becoming awake to Cern over the last 10 or 20 years, all we've heard about is the God particle. The God particle, that's what they're doing. They're trying to find the God particle. Then they find the God particle, right? Then they're able to prove the existence of the God particle, right? This guy pretty much is the face of what Cern is for the most part, Peter Higgs. And he just happens to go at a time period during an eclipse where there's rockets being sent named after serpent deities up to the eclipse, that Cern has been turned on, that there's devil comets flying around, that there's the Aleister Crowley significance of that date as well. And this happens to be the day that he coincidentally passes. Give me an utter break. But the problem is that most people out there, they've actually picked up on stuff. Like over the years when I used to cover ritual sacrifices, like if you look at Robin Williams, a lot of these people, Chris Cornell, I believe his name is, a lot of these people who they were telling you they were like doing some type of perverted act with a belt around their neck. I used to cover these because it was so obvious and there's so much evidence pointing towards it actually being an offering. Then we have people like this who aren't a ritual offering in the sense of somebody went, abducted them and did this, that they actually gave their own life up They willingly select the date ahead of time, which is what a lot of these older guys do, like the Bushes, the Rothschilds, etc., and they offer themselves up. But since a lot of these deaths, like Prince, like Robin Williams, a lot of us, when we were covering it, it was kind of a thing where people were going, oh, okay, so this is what they do. This is part of these Aleister Crowley rituals that they have and the reason that they need blood offerings, etc. Since then, it seems like almost every time there's anything that something goes viral on TikTok and people don't really understand or grasp what's actually going on and why these things are significant. A lot of them choose to exit. That is an important thing to remember. They choose this. They give themselves up. They offer them as sacrificial lambs during massive rituals because this is what they are taught and told to do. Most of them leave this earth and believe that they're getting manifested in a new vessel, a new body. Most of them leave this earth and schedule their actual date of leaving. So that's something that people need to keep in mind, that, you know, because when people visualize and they go, well, Peter Higgs is 94, and like he probably just died at his home. And then for people to say there's a ritual sacrifice, they start to think automatically that Peter Higgs was sleeping in his bed and somebody came in the, you know, in their druid cloaks and they kidnapped the old 94-year-old Peter Higgs. How it likely occurred is they pre-planned, knowing April 8th, the significance of him with the God particle, with the things they're trying to do of summoning of these demons, that he was the one who was offered and gave himself up at the age of 94 for this ritual that was going to occur, because that's normally how it really happens. This mindset of like, oh, these guys are getting jumped in their sleep, or these guys are they're turning their backs on them. They offer themselves. And a lot of the times when it's called upon them to make an offering, they'll make an offering. Like you saw in that clip, they'll make an offering of a grandchild, a child of their own, whatever. Somebody who's a part of their bloodline, usually a cousin. Somebody who's in their bloodline is normally the way that it goes. And they'll offer them up. Or somebody of prominence, somebody who has a lot of fame on earth, right? Somebody who they may have been friends with, if they're rappers, another rapper friend, those types of things. So Higgs at 94, it cannot be a coincidence that he croaked in his sleep randomly, at random, while Cern was turned on for this eclipse and all these other coincidences were happening with summoning of spirits and demons on the other side, with opening of portals, which really is what Peter Higgs's life work was or is, right? About the God particle. What they tell you about, oh, they're trying to add mass to all. Everyone goes, oh, I don't know what that means. But, you know, his whole life is based off of opening of this black hole, lifting of the veil and bringing over what's on the other side, right? And then telling you it's science and math and you don't get it, okay? So if his whole life was based off of this, and he's one of the fathers of doing this, and he's one of the people responsible really for the quote-unquote achievements at Cern, it is not coincidental that during this event that he croaked. And if you believe in coincidences at this point, well, you probably believe that if a tooth falls out of your mouth tonight and you put it under the pillow, that the tooth fairy is going to show up and leave a nice $5 bill for you, which won't even buy you a gallon of gas these days. I thank you for being here, everybody. Hope you're all doing well. God bless you as always and your families.